What is up, fellas, and welcome to another episode of Rewriting History with me, the Goob. I got my hair cut today by a literal crazy person, and I don't know if it looks too bad, but I can feel the chunks missing if I run my hand through it. It's it's so bad, but hopefully it looks okay. It's just hair; it's no big deal. So today I've got a couple topics I want to cover. And the first one is a major update to the Nazca mummies. So last week, I made some claims, and I need to correct some of those claims. This story is the biggest mess of a story I've ever encountered. So I want to re-emphasize a point that I made last week, which is do not trust me. Do not take my word on these Nazca mummies. I'm presenting it as best I can, but I'm not confident that these are the facts, that this is the truth. It is a very, very messy story. So look into it yourself, make your own judgments. But last week, I made the claim that scientists were actively avoiding talking about the smaller mummies. And that claim is true. I'm just showing some images that I meant to show last week in the background. So they are actively avoiding discussing the smaller mummies, the experts who have inspected these things. And I followed that up by saying, but through watching interviews, it seems like they reluctantly admit that even the smaller mummies, they can't find evidence of them being forged or created, right? And that does not seem to be true. That seems to be coming from Jamie Mousson, who is a reporter and a pro-UFO person. These are rocks that were allegedly found in the cave. Make of them what you will. And Mousson has promoted past alien hoaxes. He's not a reliable person, but I didn't realize just how unreliable he truly was. So what he's been doing is he's been taking real quotes from these scientists and been using them as if they were, in response to questions about these smaller mummies when they were actually about these mummies here, the larger humanoid mummies. And so they're real quotes going, yes, none of the mummies, we've been able to find no evidence of forgery in any of the mummies, but they're specifically talking about these mummies, not the little guys. So this guy seems like he's probably a fake. I mean, you can look at the x-rays and the CT scans yourself and make your own judgments. Based off my opinion, just looking at this guy, he doesn't look real. You look at the CT scan, you look at the x-ray, there seems to be even bigger problems then. So it seems like those guys probably are not real. But the big guys, well, you still have all these experts looking at them and saying they're not finding any evidence of fakes. Here's more rocks found in there. And these are really convenient rocks. UFOs, alien heads, and dinosaurs. Like, if you were to make a hoax, it would be hard to make it more obvious than this right here. But again, this whole story is a mess. There really is so much good evidence to dismiss all of this. At the same time, there's so much good evidence to take all of this seriously. And then in between all of that is just a bunch of bullshit. There is so much misinformation and disinformation and contradictory information out there. This story truly is a mess. And no bioarchaeologist is willing to deal with this stuff. The experts that we have looking at these things are forensic dentists. That's what John D. McDowell is, one of the U.S. experts who've taken a look at them. There's plastic surgeons, there's other medical doctors, there's all these people that do have parallel expertise, but none that actually have direct expertise. This is allegedly a 3-fingered fetus inside of Montserrat. If that's a forgery, that's a really impressive forgery because it's got the enlarged head and everything already as a fetus. That's getting pretty complicated. And then the fact that these are carbon dated. So if they are forgeries, they seem to be forgeries from legitimate ancient remains, so this really is a very, very impressive hoax if it's a hoax. But yeah, we're probably not going to get to the bottom of it anytime soon because bioarchaeologists are totally unwilling to deal with this. You have, in America, you've got NAGPRA and the extreme culture of archaeology. And so they don't want to touch these things. They won't touch these things because they believe that these are forgeries made from legitimate human remains, ancient human remains. But if they believe that, that means that an actual archaeological site is being destroyed and plundered by these grave robbers. Actual ancient human remains are being manipulated and turned into these abominations and then being presented to the public in order to mislead people and misinform people and get people to believe in dangerous conspiracies like aliens. The exact kind of things that you would think the mainstream would want to shut down. And what better way to shut this down than to investigate it and prove that this is a hoax and a fraud and expose this to the world? But do any of them do that? No, they're completely unwilling to. And so it makes no sense to me. It just makes no sense to me. They're allowing this hoax, if it is a hoax, right? That's what they believe it is. So they're allowing this hoax to continue because it would be like immoral for them to deal with these things, to investigate these things. It's so ass backwards. One last quick retraction I want to make is the DNA. I looked into the DNA a lot more, and there's a lot of claims being made from the pro-alien side and the anti-alien side. And as best I can gather is that the DNA is just a mess. The DNA tests are not sophisticated as they need to be. The DNA samples were not as good as they should be. And we've got very limited samples. We've got 3 samples that have been taken, and it's just not enough to actually conclude anything pro or against alien. It's just a mess of information. So we need more tests from the DNA. So what's that leave us with? It leaves us with a whole lot of experts that have genuinely inspected these large humanoid mummies and are going, we can't find any evidence of forgery. Everything else is pretty much up in the air. That's that. So feel free to call in if you have any commentary on the mummies. Let me pull up the images for the maces and vases that I wanted to talk about. All right. It's a really, and like, there are more things I want to say about the mummies, actually, because it's a really, really interesting case. If these things are fakes, well, the skulls are real, right? So if the hands and the feet are manipulated, the skulls are real. The skulls apparently are a larger volume than your standard human skull, and the eye sockets are larger than your standard eye sockets. So it's like, how are you faking that? If these are legitimate ancient remains, which they appear to be, how are you manipulating a skull to make it larger? It's not like finger bones where you can theoretically put extra bones in there and make these fingers longer. You can cut away 2 fingers and make 3-fingered hands and add extra bones and make those fake hands. That's like theoretically possible. You can't cut 2 skulls in half and slap them together and make a bigger skull, though. It doesn't work that way. So it's like, even if these are, they're very interesting. I want to get to the bottom of them. Regardless of what lens you choose to look at these mummies through, it seems like there should be interest and should be desire to investigate them from the mainstream, but there's not. So the vases and maces, and I want to give a shout out to V-Duo, who brought, the fact that these maces might not actually be maces as a question up. So credit to V-Duo. She's got a video on her channel where she talks about these things as well, but I decided to look into them on my own, and I want to share what I found, because these maces come from pre-dynastic Egypt, just like the vases do, the anomalous vases. These maces are exclusively made out of hard stone like granite and diorite. There are no soft stone maces of this variety. Hey, Slav, if you're in the chat, you're a geologist, I believe. Let me know if you know what kind of stone this is. It's covered in beautiful fossils. It's a really beautiful piece here. This one is actually a slightly different design than the other maces I'm discussing. So I'm not sure if it's the same thing, because it might be a soft stone. I'm not sure. The inside of this is polished, which is a bit different from what you see. And the shape is a bit different. So this was labeled as predynastic, but I'm not 100% sure if it's the same thing. Let me know if you know what kind of stone that is, Slav. I'd be curious to know. But these things, they have a concave top, right? And they've got this somewhat half hourglass shape at the bottom with you can see here, right? The top's not flat though. The top is actually concave. This is another mace from ancient Egypt, and you can see it's a soft stone mace. It's a ball, and the center hole is drilled from both sides, and it's drilled rather crudely. So just giving you a bit of a comparison, another one. It's a soft stone mace. It's lopsided. It's pretty uneven. And then you have these things, which are exclusively made out of hard stone. Some of them look more precise than others, right? This one looks pretty darn round. The hole in the center looks pretty centered. It looks, like a pretty clean hole. Some of these, this is from a later period in Egypt. It's actually got a flat top. It's not as wide. I think this was maybe inspired by these earlier pieces, but this seems to have a different form, different function. This one probably was used as a mace. It's got a pretty clean hole in the center, though. You look at that hole, that's a pretty clean hole. V suggests that these are stone cutting discs. So I don't know about that, but I'm also not sure that these things are maces, because I just showed you a couple other maces. They're made out of soft stone. These are made out of hard stone. Almost all maces from Egypt are made out of soft stone or even mud. They're not made out of diorite. These are regarded as ceremonial maces because the quality and effort that went into these is quite high. You can see another one back here. The soft stone mace that you see here, that's like limestone. Much easier to create this than this. But while they label these as ceremonial, not a single one, not one of these maces has a single marking or engraving on them anywhere. There is not one piece of decoration on any of these maces. I hope I just closed it and I was showing the images that whole time. I just gave myself a little heart attack. I think I just closed it though. So these are found exclusively in first period Naqada pre-dynastic Egypt, the earliest Naqada period, before even the vases are popping up. They're only found in hard stone materials. They have zero decoration on them. There is not one artistic depiction of a mace of this style. And the way that they're found in burials is different from other weapons. Other weapons are found in a variety of ways, but these maces were exclusively found directly on top of the skull of the person they were buried with. So I don't know about these things as stone cutting discs. They don't really look like they'd be that effective as a stone cutting disc. They're a little too wide, I think, right? Like you wouldn't achieve a very deep cut with one of these. And I don't think it helps explain the production of the vases themselves at all, but they are a bit of an anomaly. They don't really make sense to me as a mace head because they don't seem to fit everything else we see with mace heads. You don't find them in anywhere else in surrounding areas, and you don't find them anytime after that period. And the only, God damn it, I guess I can't hit escape. That closes the window. So the only other thing that you find at all comparable to this are these here, which are ancient Nordic mace heads. And there's 3 of them. They're pretty similar, but distinct. What do you guys think? Do you think that is a stone cutting tool, that this was spun around and used to cut stone? If you look at these edges, one other thing is that archaeologists noted that, and I didn't notice this on any of the images, but they noted it in their notes, that this edge right here was more finely polished than the rest of the surface. And the conclusion they drew from that was evidence that these maces were used for bashing skulls, because everyone knows that you get a highly polished surface on your stone by bashing skulls in. So I don't know what you guys think. I'm a bit dubious that those ones are mace heads, but I'm not really sure what they are. Now, on to the most controversial part of this episode, the ancient race debate. There's been some interesting developments going on. I've got some good points to make. Hopefully, I'm able to make them effectively. It might seem silly where I start. It might seem like some silly, pointless Twitter drama, but it'll come full circle. I promise. So a couple days ago, this crazy bitch, this insane woman, went after Luke Caverns. A short video was posted of Luke Caverns talking about the Great Pyramids. He said absolutely nothing controversial. Truly nothing controversial. And this chick went the fuck off on him. The original thread has been deleted by now. Luke Caverns deleted it, understandably so. But she's just going crazy on this guy, going, look at this beta cuck bitch. You fucking retard, you scumbag, you grifter, you charlatan. And so Luke goes, hey, what mistake did I make? He's being very polite. He's like, can you point out where I made the mistake? And her response is like, I don't even know, but an Egyptologist liked my first comment, so I know I must be right, and you are a charlatan. And she continues going on like this for hours. Every single polite response that he made, she would quote repeatedly, and then just continue going on tirades about how he's a charlatan and a beta and a cuck and a bitch and all of this stuff. And she's literally doing this seemingly like not even knowing why. Now, why does this matter? It doesn't matter. It's just a crazy woman. One crazy woman being a crazy woman doesn't mean anything. What does matter, however, is that people saw her going crazy on Luke, and they decided to start tagging other archaeologists and going, hey, take a look at this. What's going on here? And so other archaeologists start coming into the thread, and they see this rabidly insane woman. At one point, she posted a fucking picture of herself with a knife going, Luke's lucky I don't have a gun. Luke repeatedly asked her, what are you upset about? Never once answered, just fully unhinged insanity. None of these archaeologists go, whoa, wait a second, crazy lady. You're being a little bit crazy. They immediately go, whoa, we need to take a look at what Luke's saying. What's got her so riled up? We better take down Luke. And they proceed to do exactly that. They make a 60 fucking post thread dissecting every word that Luke has trying to attack him. By the way, all of their criticisms is that he left out context, which he didn't. This was a 10-minute clip from a 6-hour video. But these people are in their little club, and so their double standards know no bounds. And they attack Luke because one of them in their club was attacking Luke, and they must defend their own, no matter how unhinged and irrational it is. And at one point, after Luke was excessively polite and patient, he calls her a crazy cat lady, and the archaeologists jump on him and go, whoa, Luke, you better watch yourself. You don't want to go down this road. Again, why does all of this matter? I'm going to connect it all to the race debate, to all of it. It all comes full circle, okay? But it is shocking to see the level of double standards and the level of we must protect our own and we will attack anyone who disagrees with us. And this ties in to then Dedunking Dan and Jimmy Corsetti going on Joe Rogan and trying to throw Robert Seffer under the bus. Where's my screens? Losing my screens. Here we go. So I don't really have much of an opinion on Robert Seffer, honestly. I've watched some of his videos. I think the guy's a bit of a kook. He believes in moon Nazis. That's where I draw the line. That's where I go, okay, you're a little bit out here, man. You're talking about moon Nazis, but all of these people want to focus on the fact that he addresses the idea of race and IQ. they gloss over the moon Nazis. It's the race and IQ that makes him too outlandish for them. But anyways, Dan and Jimmy go on Joe Rogan and they start throwing Robert Sefer under the bus, and they start going, hey, archaeologists, stop calling us racist, stop calling us Nazis. We're not the Nazis. It's Robert Sefer. You should be attacking him. And then they go on Twitter afterwards, and it seemed like this might have been coordinated. They start going off about how the following are undeniable facts. The legend of the lost city of Atlantis originates from ancient Egyptians. Egypt is in Africa, which makes Atlantis an African legend. The Sahara was a lush tropical environment at the time of Atlantis. It's not a coincidence that the Rakat structure matches all of the most striking, blah, blah, blah. He makes several posts going on about how the ancient builders of the Great Pyramids were not white people, that they were black, that ancient Atlanteans were black. He literally starts posting forehead slopes. He literally is posting forehead slants, going on about how they're black, everyone's black, and then at the same time comes back going, oh, why are all of you guys obsessed with race? Why are you guys all talking about race? I never brought up race. Dude, you're literally posting fucking forehead slants. And then you post this bullshit where, oh, by the way, these pharaohs obviously aren't white. Not sure how or why this could possibly bother anyone. And then you immediately turn around, and I don't know, I'm not going to scroll through here to find it, but you're welcome to. He repeatedly, over and over and over again, very condescendingly go, oh, why are you guys so focused on race? Jimmy, you're the one race baiting here. You're the one going, look at me. I'm a good guy. Don't call me a racist Nazi. Look, I want to talk about Atlantis, but I'll say they're black so you don't attack me. I'll say the ancient Egyptians who built the pyramids are black. Don't attack me. Look, I'm a good guy. It's just so ridiculous. And then you turn around with that scumbag leftist small hat mentality of, oh, let me shame people. Look at you talking about race. No one's talking about race. It is such a slimy, disingenuous tactic. And here's the thing. These people, right? I'm talking about the crazy cat lady. This is the level of derangement from these archaeologists, is that they will defend the crazy cat lady and attack Luke for saying absolutely nothing. And Jimmy and Dan especially, Dan desperately wants to be a part of this club. Dan has always desperately wanted to be a part of this club. Oh no, I'm back. I accidentally hit the back button on my mouse. So I called this out a long time ago. I made a prediction that I really hoped was not going to come true, but it absolutely is. When the Dibble and Flint debate happened, I saw that people like Jimmy, like me, like all of these other people, were finally recognizing archaeologists for what they are. They are the crazy person standing on the corner with their underwear on the outside of their pants, yelling at imaginary Nazis. That's not someone you engage with. When you walk past them and they shout that you're a Nazi, you don't sit there and defend yourself. But that's what Dan and Jimmy are doing. They're going, no, please don't call us Nazis, you crazy people with the underwear on the outside of your pants. Look, we're good guys. We'll say that Atlantis was black people. Don't come after us. Come after Robert Sefer. He's the real Nazi here. And when the Dibble and Flint debate first happened, people were finally realizing that they were the crazy person on the corner with the underwear on the outside of their pants. But Dan changed the dynamic of the conversation. He gave people ammunition to throw back at the archaeologists. And so now people could sling their stones at them. They didn't have to actually do the research or know or what. They could just throw the ammunition that Dan provided them, and it pulled them back into the debate with these crazy, crazy people with their underwear on the outside of their pants. And now you have Dan pulling them even deeper back into this by going, no, look, we're going to play the game. Look, we can talk about Atlantis and be a part of the club if we sacrifice Robert Seffer and we call everything black. If we just make up bullshit and give up the pursuit of truth, and we join the club of the crazies with the underwear on the outside of their pants. It's pathetic, it's sad, and it's disheartening, because all I want to do is have a legitimate, honest conversation about old rocks. And that's become impossible. If you want to talk about old rocks, you either have to say only black people ever made old rocks, or else you're a Nazi. It's fucking retarded. Anyone want to call in? Wow, I have been going through this episode at lightning pace. How is it only 5:26? I speed ran through. I had a lot. I don't know why I'm rushing this episode so much. I had a lot more to talk about on all of these topics, but I went through them at a blistering pace. So, yeah, call in if you guys want. I am. I'm really pissed off at the behavior that I'm seeing. Like, look, I hope Jimmy turns around and changes his behavior, and I'll forgive him. Like, no problem. Okay. You know, people do stupid things, but to see him trying to appease these insane people, how have we not learned by now? This is the same behavior as the leftists, because it is the leftists, because archaeology is 99.9% extreme far left, right? But like, apologizing to these people doesn't work. Trying to appease these people doesn't work. You give them an inch and they take a mile, and they've already taken miles. And now you have like Jimmy and Dan and others. It wasn't just them. There were several people that came out on Twitter all at the same time, all going, yeah, dude, it's all black people. By the way, where's the archaeologists coming out and shouting racism? If God forbid they said it was white people, they would have been on them so quickly and so aggressively. Say it's all black people. They love it. Not a word. Hey, come on into the club. It's just, I don't care if it was black people, to be clear. If it was, let's find out that truth, and great. But it's just the double standards, the intellectual dishonesty, and then the scumbagginess that goes along with it. After posting forehead slopes, after Jimmy posts forehead slopes, people responding to that, he goes, dude, why are you guys so focused on race, you pathetic little chuds? Look at you, you fucking racist little chud cells. And I'm not trying to go on Jimmy so hard here. This was several people. I keep mentioning his name, and I'm genuinely like not trying to go after him super hard. Whatever. It is what it is. Yeah. If you guys have questions about the aliens, I'll answer them as best I can. It seems like none have. There's legal issues with. What's up, man?
Hey,
how you doing, Slav?
Oh, you hear me?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Do you happen to have any insight on that rock from earlier? I also thought limestone was a likely choice, but it seemed a little brown. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm about to hang up on you. Okay. Bye, Slav. Call back if you want, but don't do what you were just doing, whatever you were just doing. Probably, Slav. I'm not going to highlight your comment, but the one about the woman, yes, she probably was. So yeah, I don't know. It really does upset me to see the way this is going. I just want to have good conversations about old rocks, and that shouldn't be so difficult to do. Um, and yeah, I don't know about you guys, but the fact that Dan and Jimmy and others are now trying to throw Robert Seffer under the bus and are like doing this coordinated, no, everything was black. Look, we do like to talk about Atlantis, but we'll say it's black so you guys will let us talk about it and be a part of the club. It's like trying to appease those crazies. I get Dan. Dan's clearly that's been evident from the beginning that Dan is desperate to be a part of this club. But I like seeing it from Jimmy is rather disappointing, and seeing it from these other people is rather disappointing. We don't need them. They're not rational people. You don't entertain the guy on the street corner with his underwear over his pants. Why are we entertaining them? I don't get it. But yeah, I thought, I don't know what happened. I just sprinted through everything. So I guess I've gone through my content for this episode. I guess this is a short episode this week. I can continue talking about the aliens if you guys are interested in that. So I didn't get an email, but I saw an email from McDowell, and he confirmed that the quotes that Musan was showing were his real quotes, but they were about the larger mummies and not the smaller mummies. So that's where that's coming from. No mummy has legally been taken out of Peru, except for, I think a couple did end up in Mexico somehow. But none have been taken to America. There are reports that these mummies have illegally been taken out of the country, that some have been sold to private collectors, that samples have been taken out. And you can find people talking about testing being done on these samples that have illegally been removed, but trying to verify that is obviously impossible because, no chain of custody and all that. You'd have to document very thoroughly the crimes you're committing in order to document that this was actually what's being tested. Yeah, I don't know. There's a whole mess of claims that are made. If it seems like for this to be a hoax, the CT scans would have to be faked. All the CT scans that we're seeing videos of, because we don't have the actual files, we don't have the actual DICOM files, but we have these computer-generated 3D models from the DICOM files that are, then videoed and photographed and shared with the public. And like all of that would have to be faked, it would seem, in order for this to be a hoax, because you have like that 3-fingered tridactyl fetus in there with the enlarged cranium and with the 3 fingers, and it's inside of Montserrat. Seems unlikely that that's like a physical forgery. So a digital forgery would be the explanation there, right? But if it's a digital forgery, how are they tricking all of the experts who, like I said, they have parallel expertise, like a forensic dentist. He looks at DICOM files all day long. He deals with CT scans all day long. So he's in the room. These people are physically in the room while these things are being CT scanned. They're watching it happening live. So is this such an elaborate hoax that they've somehow managed to infiltrate universities like Ica University, which has denounced all of the testing that's been done there? They're not saying the testing didn't happen or that the results are fake, but they are going, hey, we didn't really know what they were going to be using the equipment for. And if we did know, we wouldn't have let them do this. So, they infiltrated this university, uploaded like these fake files into these machines, and then played them live to correspond with the tests as they're being done live. Like that's kind of what would need to be happening in order for those to be fake. So it really, it's hard to make sense of. I'm going to peace out. If no one wants to call in, Slav, you are welcome to try again, but your phone was just making horrible, horrible noises, which is why I hung up on you. So Yeah. But I'm just disheartened. I'm frustrated. There was a guy, East 10 Productions, who put out a video recently where he was basically saying, hey, we need more people to be open-minded, and you can disagree, you can have your opinions, but you gotta at least be somewhat flexible and searching for the truth, and like more interested in the truth than politics. So it does seem like there are other people out there who are tired of the same shit I am, and they want to have honest conversations about this stuff too. It just seems like they're few and far between. And unfortunately, it seems like they're all very small voices. I'm a very small voice. I've got 5 people watching me right now. These larger voices, they're the ones that obviously exude the most influence, and they almost universally seem to be trying to play this sick and twisted game of the archaeologists. One other point I guess I'll throw in here is like the corruption of competition. And I've made this point on the channel before, but this plays into this whole situation. We have destroyed every traditional like means of competition in our society and civilization. And so we still need competition, but it doesn't really exist anymore. So it's become this sick and twisted game of tearing other people down. I've talked about how debates have gone from pursuing the truth to pursuing your truth, to trying to prove your truth is the truth, to now just trying to score points against the other person. People no longer even care about proving themselves right. They care about scoring points on the other person, because this sick, twisted version of competition that flourishes now, the only way we can compete is by tearing other people down. The only way we can elevate ourselves to get that feeling of satisfaction of actually having competed and achieving something is by tearing other people down. And so you go after the biggest people you can. Dunking Dan, Jimmy Corsetti, they've got big followings, and you call them Nazis. And you call them Nazis and you try and tear them down, and then you feel good about yourself because you were able to take someone who is bigger than you and make them smaller than you. And it's just this sick, it's sick and it's sad, and I'm tired of seeing it. And I don't care if you want to talk about race and IQ. I care if you want to have an honest conversation. I don't care if you think that Atlantis was black. That's fine. I genuinely don't care, as long as you're open to an honest conversation. But that's the episode, fellas. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next week. Peace out.